Good Monday morning. I'm off in Vancouver trying to learn to be a better dean. Good luck with that. And you get to be here talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is how do firms actually compete with one another when they're in the same industry. Before I get into that, I wanted to make a couple of announcements. Practice round one is in the books. You should be assessing your results from practice round one, but really what I want you to be doing is talking in your groups about what sorts of strategies you think you're going to employ, how you're going to divide up the duties within your groups, and then thinking about practice round two. I do plan to be with you on Wednesday morning for practice round two. I should be back in Wichita Falls about 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning. If for some reason I'm not there, just go on without me and be ready for practice round two. This week is a very busy week in the Dillard College with special events on your passports with International Week, so take a good look at that, and I encourage you to attend those events as much as anything so you can earn the extra credit points. Make sure to take your passports and get them signed. And also remember the etiquette dinner is coming up on Wednesday, the 27th of February. If you've never gone to that, I strongly encourage you to sign up and participate. Even if you have gone, if you've forgotten a few things, sign up and or at least get your name on a waiting list if you have gone, so that if we have space, we can accommodate you. So let's get into the subject of competitive dynamics. You see my little Dilbert cartoon up on the screen. And this is what it's about. This is, to use my sports metaphor for competitive advantage, somebody won the Super Bowl, somebody lost the Super Bowl, and that's what we're going to be talking about why. Let me dive into this, which is may strike you as a theoretical question, but honestly, this is the very situation you may be confronting yourself with in Globus in a few weeks. Your company B, in the chart on the left, you can see that your profits were $35 million and the industry profits overall were about $100 million. And we're assuming that there are three companies in industry. And because you're all publicly traded, you all have to report these numbers. And so they are public knowledge. The problem isn't that $35 million is such a bad number. It's that it's less than $50 million, which is what your competitor A earned, and they are, in fact, the industry leader. Let's assume that you think you could take a set of competitive actions such that industry profits as a whole would decrease to $65 million. And you go, well, that's terrible. But now, because you've done all this well, your industry profits are still $30 million, down $5 million from what they were before. But you've really zapped company A, and they're down to a $25 million profit. And competitor B is, you also shrunk their profits, but then they weren't that close to you anyway. And so my question is, which would you rather? Would you rather have $35 million in profits on the left in the left chart and be number two in the industry, or would you prefer to be number one in the industry with only $30 million of profit? That seems like an odd question, but in a lot of cases, that's exactly what companies are faced with. So it's easy to say, well, that's crazy. I would rather have the 35 million because it's more money for the more profits. Our stock price should be higher. That's all good. And it's easy to favor that answer. But it's not crazy to say that you would prefer the solution on the right either, because you've effectively cut your competitors' profits in half, and that may keep them from funding critical R&D campaigns. It may keep them from launching new marketing campaigns to target you. Plus, it has the distinct advantage of you are number one at that point. So the path to which is right isn't clear, and that's the real issue sometimes that companies are faced with. So today we're going to be talking about what tends to drive particular competitive rivalry, how do firms handle that, how do firms tend to react, and maybe get you to think through ways that you would address this. I want to emphasize that in the Porter's Five Forces model, we are living right in the middle of it, in that we are there talking about competitive rivalry. And now we're attacking people who are in the same industry as us, and typically they have the same basic position, and very importantly, they're trying to attract the same customers that we are. And then competitive behavior is fairly obviously those things companies do to either build or defend their market position, or you could say in a battle for customers, I'm trying to take away your customers, and I'm trying to make sure that you don't take away my customers. Here's the textbook model of competitive rivalry, and it's very good. I'm going to add some spice to it as we get into it. If you start on the left, this is talking about, goes back to competitive intelligence to a lot to say, well, what are you competing over? Market commonality says we're competing over largely the same customers. Resource similarities saying, well, we're not competing for the same customers, but we're competing for the same key resources. And a lot of times, what that boils down to is you're competing for the same workers, same high caliber workers. So you see right now a lot of companies are competing for software developers. And so companies from all different types of industries are in a war for that particular resource, which is the talent. I'll be honest with you, the resource similarity, it's great theoretically. You don't see it practiced that much, where companies from very different industries are fighting over the very same resources. And so the market commonality piece is, how much of a market do you overlap is what it amounts to. To what extent are you really going after the same folks? Then you get into the ideas of awareness, motivation, and capability. Incidentally, this is a big piece of what I did my dissertation on many moons ago. Awareness, do people understand what's happening? Do they understand the competitive interconnectivity? Do they understand what people are trying to do to them? Motivation, do they care? Are they happy with being number 2 is important to be number 1? A lot of this has to do with where a company sets its reference mark. And the final thing is ability. Does the company possess the resource ability to do something about it, or are they tied down or constrained, no available money, nothing to do it with? And also, do they have the cognitive capacity to respond? In other words, are they up to being a good competitor? So these drivers of competitive behavior, awareness, motivation, and capability, are key factors. And some of this, I'll tell you right now, is going to come out in Globus. Awareness. Are you or your team paying enough attention to all of the competitive intelligence reports that you understand who's doing what to you? Motivation. Do you care enough about your results in the simulation to invest the efforts to do better? And ability or capability, then do you have your team organized properly? And do you have the right people on your team? And are they putting in the right effort to actually know the right things to do? So you're going to see this play out in real time with you in the Globus simulation. I'll step into the idea of the competitive rivalry in the next video.